Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Just before we go into the episode, I want to let you know that the front row is open to join now. It was open at the beginning, first set it up, got 10 brothers in. It's been going amazing, alhamdulillah, phenomenally. And now there are 10 slots open. 3 have just been taken, so there are now 7 slots available. So if you want to join, then click the link in the description. What is the front row? It's a community of ambitious Muslim men who are working alongside each other with coaching, with mentorship, with accountability, with a support network of people who are on the same wavelength to level up in the things that you always wished you would achieve and accomplish and you didn't yet. Stuff like your finances, your health, your wealth, your worship, your relationship with Allah, and anything like that. So if you're interested at all, you can find out full details in the description. See you around. Remember, there are only 7 slots available now. So get and move on if you really want to join. Assalamu alaikum.
I'm empty.
Empty of what?
Inspiration.
That's not good as a designer.
See, the AI just does it for me now. So what's the point?
What's the
It came
need
up
for
in
inspiration?
conversation. Came up in conversation at my job today.
Yeah.
People were just talking about it. They're like, "Oh, I just sent a letter off using Chat GPT," and then everyone's passing it around and like showing each other how they did it. And I said, "Hey, keep it down." They're like, "Why?" It's like, listen, people find out you're doing that. It's shut down for everybody. Just keep it quiet.
Yeah,
Share it on the down low.
they'll lock it off on the network level.
Absolutely, because it's only one blunder away. Because they're sending letters out to members of the public, but
What do you mean
they find
letters?
out that
You mean like a letter, like a physical letter?
yeah, it was like they're getting it typed up and then obviously printing it out, sending it out to members of the
Okay.
public regarding some stuff. But if the members of the public clock on that it's Chat GPT, they might complain. Or if there's like a big blunder within it, it's not been proofread, they might complain. It might cause a bit of a scandal, and then everyone will be like, "No, don't use this." I said what will happen is like someone's going to mess up with it. It's going to get banned for a few years, and then like after those few years, it'll be brought back in a like I don't know, uh, packaged kind of
Controlled way.
yeah, controlled and branded way. Uh, but yeah, with it will come a lot of layoffs as well. That's what will happen.
What juice are you drinking?
It's very simple orange squash because it's low calories.
No sugar orange squash.
Pretty much, very basic. Probably not very good for you, but
Why would it not be good for you?
I don't know, artificial sweeteners and all that.
What's wrong with that?
I said probably. You can answer the
Okay.
definitive answer.
Because I did hear about that. Like, I was actually getting sold on sweeteners. I was like, kind of makes sense. I mean, I tried stevia. Do not like the taste of it whatsoever. But I thought, I guess it makes sense, blah, blah, blah. But then I watched this podcast with a guy whose his speciality is gut health. And he said sweeteners destroy your microbiome. So he said,
Right.
they don't, I think he said they don't spike your blood sugar, but all the other destructive elements of the sugar on your biome or something like that, they have the same effect. So, that's not good. That's not good. Like, if I
Right.
ever take like antibiotics, I'm like very kind of conscious of the fact that I just destroyed the bacteria in my gut, and I'm like, give me that yogurt or whatever it is, give me that cabbage or pickles or whatever to rebuild it. I even think of that with my son. I'm like, okay, he just took antibiotics. Okay, yogurt, give him yogurt, loads of yogurt.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I don't think I have any sweeteners in my diet, but I do have sugar. That's for sure.
See, once I start, I can't stop. Like I start craving sugar all the time for every meal. Um, yeah, it's tough, man. This dunya, man, this dunya is designed to punish us, not punish us, probably a bad way of saying it, but to struggle through it. We must strive and struggle. And for
Even the
anything worth
good things
having,
are bad.
yeah, well, yeah, there's too much of it, definitely. Um, yeah, I
Yeah.
was thinking about that a lot today. It's like anything worth having, you have to strive and struggle for. Otherwise, you ain't getting there, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
really low down.
Did you, here's a topic for you. Did you see anything about the new Apple product yesterday?
I did see it. Yes, I did. I saw some pictures.
Okay.
What is it? Is this one? There we go. Let's go, baby. I'm diving in.
What do you think? What did you hear about it? Because I was
Oh,
watching it live. I'm that geeky.
oh, no, I didn't watch it live, but the window wipers are on. Um,
There's a
uh,
thumbnail.
I like it.
Okay.
I thought it was pretty good. I didn't see a video. I
What
saw
about it? Like,
screenshots.
yeah.
I've always wanted. I like the interface. I like integrated work like that,
Hmm.
and I know that because it's Apple, it's just going to be slick. You know,
Seamless.
it, it's going to be seamless. It's going to connect to all my bits and pieces. Will I get one? Probably not. Never. £3,000 or dollars? No, 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 no. Absolutely not. Um, but I could see it. Like, could I see it being used in a workplace? I don't know. Depends what work you're doing. They always have these like Star Wars esque meetings with holograms, and like, oh, everyone's gonna sit around this like hologram pad, and we're all gonna be viewing this thing. But I don't know how legit that will be. I feel like it's just. I've seen like you know uh, meetings, hybrid meetings where some people are present in the room, and some people are on Teams, and the people organizing it have just struggled so much to get it working that they kind of just abandon the whole idea. So whether it has to be super seamless, doesn't it? Anyway, forget my opinion. What do you think about it?
Well, before we get into that, I asked Bard for some crazy financial facts about Apple, because I know there are crazy financial facts out there about Apple, but I don't remember them. Okay, so Apple is the most valuable company in the world, valued at $2 trillion.
Yes.
Not a joke, not for no reason. Yeah. Apple generated just under $400 billion in revenue last year.
Nice.
Here's a mad one, yeah. Apple has been profitable for 20 consecutive quarters, a feat that has never been accomplished by any other company in history.
Wow.
What's 20 quarters? What's 20 divided by? That's 5 years. Yeah.
Ask Bud.
Yeah, I can do maths. Yeah. 20 divided by 4 is 5. Yeah. 5 years. That doesn't sound right, though. Like, surely there's loads of companies like that, but maybe they mean like public companies or something. Okay, and here's a big one. This is like links to the what's it called? The Apple Vision Pro. All right. Apple has over $200 billion in cash and investments, making it one of the most cash-rich companies in the world. So they got 200 billion. I thought it was only cash, but it's cash and investments. But let's say, a good chunk of that is cash. I don't know, 50 billion, let's say a quarter of it, right? That's a lot of cash, okay? But at the same time, for a company that does 400 billion a year, if you were like, you put yourself in Tim Cook's shoes, yeah? Your proud friend, yeah?
Is he proud? Is he?
Yeah,
I didn't
he's
know
proud,
that.
bro. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's the
I
second
mean,
thing today, this week.
yeah, so put yourself in his shoes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Your company is making 400 billion a year. If you're going to release a new product, a whole new product, all the research and everything behind it, how much does it need to make for it to be worth the effort and the focus and the work and all that? How much does it need to bring in every year?
I don't know, man. Their R&D department's probably constantly churning,
Bro,
with like a lot of these companies is.
probably
Yeah.
10,000 people in R&D. I don't know,
Yeah.
but I would guess you need to, a whole new product line needs to add 10% at least to the thing, which is 40 billion a year. 40 billion.
Yeah.
40 billion with a B. Yeah.
Thing
So,
is, they'll always have tech there, won't they? They'll always have they'll like right now. They'll probably have ridiculous, awesome tech, but they just know
yes,
that they can't get it cheap enough at this stage,
of
so
course.
they
Yeah.
just hold it off until.
Yeah. Very, that's the thing. When you got 200 billion in cash investments, you can kind of bide your time and be very careful and strategic. And you stop thinking about next year and they start thinking about in 10 years and 20 years, So
Mm.
if you need, every product you put out needs to have the potential at least to bring in 40 billion, then you only, firstly, you would easily invest 1 billion on that, right? Like you got 50 billion, let's say, set aside, easily just throw 1 billion, throw 1 billion to it. Throw 1 billion to it,
Cheeky
and
Billy.
then it might make 40 billion a year. That's great, right? That's great.
See?
So that's one thing. The second thing is that it also means that when you're going for those big things, that the next thing to invent a category, like they have already done many times, it's going to be released and it's not going to be good at the beginning. And that happened, bro. I don't know if you remember. I remember iPad. When they released iPad, it was a joke. It was a joke. I was thinking, what's the use? What's the point? It looks like a very expensive Kindle, right? And actually, I remember a lot of people were saying that. And it was only 3-4 years later that it became more popular. And now it's almost,
Yeah.
you know, as ubiquitous as laptops. And actually, I saw an image of the revenue of each product. And Mac is like 47 billion a year and iPad is 37 billion. So it's actually like on par with the Macs. So that means, like, if you think about it like that, the Apple Watch as well, it was a joke at the beginning. It wasn't very good, etc. Now it's a category. AirPods, bro, AirPods. This guy, I don't know if you came across it. Maybe it's on a different side of Twitter to you. There was a guy who wrote a thread about AirPods. If AirPods was its own company, it would have a valuation of $400 billion, right? Which is like 7 times the size of Uber, 7 times the size of Airbnb. Okay, this is just AirPods. It's insane. Okay, so they invented these categories. Like, these categories were not popular, or not big. Even the iPhone, right? They invented smartphones. They made it like a cool thing. They made it a viable mass market thing. And so that's probably what they're thinking with this Vision Pro thing. And it's funny, they called it Pro, meaning it's not for you mainstream guys. It's for the pros. It's for the developers to start making apps for this. It's for the business people who just want to throw money, splash money here and there. Maybe there's a special use case for certain businesses. Okay, they can afford it. Maybe it's for the tech enthusiasts who are rich. They can afford it. But it's not for us, Yanni. And so that's what I'm saying. This is the worst it will ever be. This is the most expensive it will ever be. And give it 3-4 years and the version for us will come out, kind of thing. But they're not making this unless they think it's going to be a big thing, and unless they think they can make it into a big thing. And that's what Apple does. They will make it into something that you almost don't even want, right? Like, you know?
Ecosystem as well, man. The way it's so seamlessly integrated into everything else.
Very tempting, bro. Very tempting. I was always like anti AirPods. Like, I just don't know what could be going on with wireless thing, like in my ear, you know, like there's enough with Wi-Fi all around me and all that. So I was like, you know, I'm holding off on it, kind of thing. I'm fine with my wired things. It's kind of working all right. But when I see the seamlessness and the fact that I've got a Mac now, and I've got a Mac, maybe my next phone would be an iPhone, and it's like, it gets tempting. It gets tempting.
Although it depends, like, what your use case is, because you can get ring-fenced into that, and then when you want to kind of like bend the rules a little bit and step out of the you know, that fence, you kind of struggle a bit. Like, the laptop I got myself it's a PC, only because I was saving for a MacBook, and then dawned upon me, like, I don't need a MacBook to do what I want to do. And also, having a PC is a lot more practical when you're abroad, I'm assuming. If you're nomading it out to different Muslim countries, you'd probably, you know, something happens, I can probably get it easily repaired. Yeah, man. I'll find parts and all sorts, getting it repaired somewhere like there. As opposed to a MacBook, I'll probably have to go somewhere really specific, and they'll charge me an arm and a leg.
I think I looked up once what they call it, certified Apple Batiq, in Algeria. I think it was only in the capital, like, you could find it. And it's not like, it's not like you could just, I don't think so anyway, that you could just go to a non-certified one, because those could be quite dodgy when it comes to Mac parts. But for PCs, it's probably fine.
Bad time.
Yeah.
You have a very bad time. Yeah, absolutely. So there was that, and then also there's always, there definitely is an Apple premium. Trying to get Apple products, they're just going to boost the price up.
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
But they say they last longer. I mean, I've got
I believe that.
2013 MacBook here, still running pretty well.
Yeah,
It was given to us by my brother-in-law, I believe.
yeah,
Yeah, it still runs pretty well.
yeah,
It just can't handle the stuff that I want it to do. So
yeah.
yeah, if I gave this to someone, they would use it and utilize it still.
That's
So
great. What do you say? 2013?
I believe so. Yeah, yeah,
10 years.
yeah,
That's unheard of with PCs. That's unheard of.
yeah,
And the thing
yeah.
is,
Absolutely.
what I realized is like, I was tempted by AirPods. I was thinking about AirTags. I was thinking like, this phone is probably like 5, 6 years old now, so I might need a new one soon. And I was thinking I might get iPhone, but why is that? It's because for me, the Mac is a non-negotiable now. Like that is, I don't think I'm ever getting rid of like being a Mac kind of user. And so
Right.
because of that one product, I'm
That's
thinking of
it.
that, and I'm thinking, okay, well then I need the iPhone. Then it
I
has
got you.
might as well. Yeah, they got me that way exactly. So there's like 5 product categories, or whatever that they have, and if they could just get you with one of them, and it's good enough that you're like loyal to that thing, then halas, you feel like getting sucked in. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
what
yeah.
about what about this whole reality? What do they call it? They gave it a stupid one of their names. Spatial computing. Spatial computing.
Oh, I didn't see that. What's that?
No, spatial computing. They're like they're not calling it AR, VR. It's like no, it's spatial computing. It's their own thing, right? It's like
Oh,
a
right.
new I don't know, platform or whatever, because like it's a new medium of interacting with stuff. You've got the
Yeah.
touch screen or whatever on a phone. You've got a keyboard and mouse. The new thing they called it spatial computing. But what did you think about it? Like it's kind of AR, but also it can be VR. It's kind of both.
I'm trying to think. Yeah, I just like tried to envision myself using this thing, and I thought, no, this isn't going to work because number one, you got kids running around, just distracting, and then there's that like, if I lived alone, maybe, but it's so isolated. It feels like it's such an isolating experience. And also, that phenomenon. I don't necessarily get it, but I used to get it. And I know a lot of people do get it. You know when you like people having a shower and then they like when they close their eyes because the shampoo gets in their eyes and then they're scared someone's going to jump them in the shower. I don't know. It's a phenomenon that people talk about. That's the
I
kind of
get
thing
that.
with AR and VR and those goggles. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm here, but like, oh, is there someone in the room or
No, but
like?
didn't you see the trailer?
Oh no, I didn't. What happened?
No, so that's exactly what you're saying. They do their research. They know all of the points what people are worried about or don't like. So what they do is, unlike the what's it called, Oculus, right? The Oculus or whatever the other popular things out there are. This you can see through it. Like you can see the world around
Oh
you
right,
at the
yeah,
same time, right? So there are
yeah,
2 modes. One mode is it's like AR mode where you can see the world around you, and there are things, virtual things on top of everything around you. Okay,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
and then they kind of scan your eyes, and they put a representation of your eyes on a screen on the front of it. So if someone comes into the room, you will look at that person not through with your actual eyes, but it'll be through the cameras on the on the headset,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
and they will see that you're looking at them. So you'll
Yeah, I
see
get you.
them, right? So
Yeah.
that's actually very like clever, isn't it? And then the other
Yeah.
mode is like full VR mode, in which case the screen displays a kind of yeah, some sort of texture or shape to show that okay, this person's like blocked off in their own world thing, right?
I get you.
But then
Understand.
apparently, I think anyway, it detects when someone comes near you, and then it will make, let's say you're watching a movie or whatever, it will make the movie transparent to show they're there, right? They're with you,
Yeah, I
you
get
know?
you. I get you.
So it's clever, isn't it, to overcome that issue that you're talking about?
I do just like when I was younger, I used to think this stuff was super cool,
Yeah.
watching loads of science fiction stuff about this.
Yeah.
And now I just hate it. I hate
Okay.
it so much.
Um,
I hate because I know that it's just going to bring about dystopian, vile, whatever, like a society that's so like I don't want
so
to talk about
what?
this guy, but
What would it
you know,
create?
okay, so look at like the TikTok, they call it the TikTok generation, and
Yeah.
how like TikTok has produced all this vile behavior. I don't know if you've seen that prankster that kept getting like, attention online for doing ridiculous things like stealing people's dogs and walking into people's homes. And
Okay,
this,
I heard
I
about
don't
the
know,
walking into people's
maybe
homes. Yeah.
yeah, like that kind of stuff. And then
Yeah.
I saw similar things like that. Other people kind of copycat behavior. I saw someone walk into like a fast food restaurant, took a broomstick from an employee, and then shoved it in the deep fat fryer or whatever, um, and stuff like that. Like just for views, just for attention, people doing more wild stuff. Um, and then this as well, like it's just I can't put my finger on what the bad stuff will be, but there will be bad things. There'll be absolutely
Yeah.
bad things, and then
Of course.
there is that like with any technology, they will flipping be used for all sorts of vile fahisha, vile things. Like I think we mentioned before about the AI girlfriend app. So they integrate like ChatGPT or something with
Yeah.
some sort
Yeah.
of app, and
Yeah.
then they tone down. So like because of I think they basically let it loose, so it could literally say anything, sexually explicit stuff, all sorts of explicit stuff. Then there was some sort of concern raised or whatever. The creators dialed it down. I think they dialed it down and put some blockers or limitations on it, or they paywalled some of its features. It was one of the two. People went crazy. Some people were like, "You've changed my girlfriend's personality. How could you do
Wow.
this?" Getting all suicidal,
That's
stuff like that.
insane.
And there's a film I've never watched, but I was interested in seeing it. It was called Her by
Mm.
Joaquin
Heard about
Phoenix.
that. Yeah.
Um, I've heard I saw a trailer recently
Yeah.
and I haven't watched it, but the
Mm.
premise is essentially there's like somebody developing a relationship with a robot. There was also a film. I don't know if you ever saw Blade Runner 2049 or 20, and it was some sort of Blade Runner sequel.
Yeah.
And in
Yeah.
that,
Mm.
the main character's got like a completely AI girlfriend that is actually augmented reality as well. So
Yeah.
it's
It's like
physical. It's in
hologram.
a physical space. Yeah, it's like a hologram. And then at one point, so yeah, so initially, I think at the beginning of the movie, it's a hologram, but it's only limited to his living room because it's like projected through this thing
Mm.
on the ceiling. But then he
Mm.
gets an upgrade for her. It's like, oh, I've got this new thing. It means you can be wherever I am. So if I go out, you can. And then there's like this scene where he goes out and he uploads her into the new USB stick or whatever, goes out, and like the hologram is experiencing rain for the first time and all this stuff. And
Mm.
it's like, yeah, do you know what? It's not very far off. And then you've seen already. I'm sure you've come across the clips where there was a lady wearing VR goggles, and she was like interacting with a 3D hologram of her dead child. It was like her daughter that had died.
Well,
They
okay.
basically got all this video footage of
I
her
think I
daughter,
remember that. Mm.
and yeah, like essentially deep faked her into a 3D space, and then you can
Mm.
see this video of her of the mother wearing the goggles trying to like stroke her daughter's face. It's very Dangelic, bro. It's very scary stuff, and it
Yeah.
just I'm after my little camping trip and my desire to go back home and desire to be in nature and all that kind of stuff. I really want to. I've really thought, oh, I want to value this. So I want to be more disconnected from the online space and unplugged from the matrix, as it were. And clearly, society is just you know barrowing headfirst into this kind of hellscape. But
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
sure you got the same concerns, no?
Um. Yeah, for sure. Even when I was watching the trailer, it did feel dystopian. It didn't feel. I didn't have that moment of wow, cool. I can see myself, benefiting from that or whatever. Of course, like I said, Apple products, the first version, often they're not like that anyway. But
Yeah.
I just didn't get anything out of it like excitement for what it could do for me.
Mm.
And I think the same would go for like Apple Watch, iPad, like these things that like I'm interested in the tech. Okay, I enjoy to kind of understand the innovation. Okay, but it has to have a use case that's relevant for me. And by the nature of what Apple is doing, which is taking something that people don't want today, they don't even know about it, they don't want it per se, and they need to find a way to make them want it. By the
Yeah.
nature of that, they have to suck people in who they have no, like, it wouldn't really benefit their life, but it just, they'll start buying it because either it's the thing or it looks cool or whatever. So what does that mean? It means that that thing that looked dystopian on the trailer
Mm.
may just get pushed out to everyone, and bit by bit people kind of adopt it, and as the uses of it become like cooler and more impressive, people jump into it again, not being aware, because it's not obvious, the harms. I don't think the harms are that obvious. Maybe they become more obvious because of there's been a lot of talk over the last 2-3 years about isolation and staying at home and COVID and all that, and I think that is the most obvious problem with this, right? But it's not the only one. You know, I don't think we can understand the other things, but that was the key thing that stood out for me, is this thing of, I can be like, just imagine it now, like imagine somebody, Abdullah, his family are in Birmingham, he gets a job in London, he's living, let's say he's sharing a flat with some others, he's got a job in London, he lives on his own, he's got his room, and he works remotely, for example, but let's say he's got to be in London, he's got to go to office once a week, whatever. And he wakes up and he whatever, brushes teeth, whatever, and he goes to work in his home, and then he prays in his room, and he eats in his room, and you can just imagine that. And then when he finishes work, you know, he puts on his Apple Vision and watches stuff, or he might even speak to his family. But ultimately, you're very isolated, bro, and that we're not built for that. Like, I don't know how to describe it more than we're not built for that. I guess in the future, people will be able to articulate it better, or maybe there are people now who can articulate the problem with that more than me, better than me. But we're not built for that, bro.
I just don't know if, like, I think a lot of people bank on human nature to kind of step away from that stuff, of their own accord, or take breaks off their own accord. I know there's people that won't. Obviously, there's people that get completely sucked in. But generally speaking, can we still bank on human nature to kind of step away from that stuff? And the only
No.
example I can think of is like when video games moved from arcades to, home consoles. Because one thing I liked about VR is that arcade experience I went to, where it was very much an experience. I went
Yeah.
with my wife. It was like a social thing. We went and experienced it, and then I stepped away from it, and now that was great. Maybe another time. And video games used to be like that. You used to go to the arcade with your friends. You play some multiplayer games together, after school, whatever it was, and it was fun. It was super fun. I remember going arcades. Obviously, I'm not that old. Obviously, I was born and home consoles already existed, but the arcade experience, I was still there to appreciate it.
I actually
But
experienced
did I
the
spend?
internet cafe era, or network
Oh yeah, yeah,
cafe
yeah,
era, right? That was genuine fun
yeah,
because there was this time between single player, no internet consoles, and then
yeah,
the online playing. So in UAE, I don't know, the internet, whatever, it wasn't set up to allow for online gaming. Because online gaming
yeah.
existed even from PlayStation 2, I think, right? We
Sort
couldn't
of.
do it. We couldn't do it. So we had these network gaming places where you would actually,
Yeah,
but you
LAN
would
parties.
physically be there with your friends. So your friend will be next to you on another computer and you'd be playing together, right? And so it was an actual still social like experience. But anyway, go on.
Yeah. No, exactly, exactly. That was it essentially. LAN parties were the only option before, but it was always a social experience. And then slowly things started going more online. Um, but even online, at least when we were younger, there was less of this social media stuff. So you didn't necessarily often meet people you didn't know, and you didn't have this false kind of notion of followers and social connections and all that kind of stuff. Um, so I remember going home after school playing Xbox 360, but everybody I'd play with was a friend from school. So it was like, oh, it was like school away from school kind of thing. Um, Maybe it's because I'm older now, or maybe social media in general is different. But yes, there has been this big thing to connect people. There was a khutbah about this the other day, actually, in Jumu'ah, where the sheikh was essentially talking about uh, it was talking about our responsibility towards our family, but don't get that confused with your responsibility towards like quote unquote responsibility towards random strangers on the internet or random strangers you're not
Mm,
necessarily connected to. Who you're giving more time to? You're giving more time to the flock that you'll be asked about, or you're giving more time to people that aren't necessarily part of your responsibility. And we can all learn from that really, because I might have God knows how many followers on Twitter, and am I spending more time on Twitter than I am with my family or my kids? And I'm going to be asked about my kids more so than anybody who might follow me or whatever.
mm,
Um, yeah, it is weird. It is dystopian. There has been a push, a counterculture push, bringing back like anonymity. And I don't know if you ever come across a VR chat. There was like a chat room where you basically have a um, persona, I guess, and your character is like a 3D model of whatever you kind of want it to be, so you don't have to be yourself.
mm,
But then counter to that, you've got like Twitter, Elon Musk took over it, and he's trying to force people to be more legit. So like he kind of booted off parody accounts, and there's all these verified things that he's trying to implement. Like even to just get a verified tick, they have to verify your account, and then if you change your profile picture, you lose your verification mark, and your account has to be re-reviewed, and all these weird kind of attempts to kind of legitimize people and authorize people. I
mm.
mean, yeah, it's all convoluted and complicated.
You know what? Actually, another
Um,
problem I just thought of, other than the isolation and the lack of real
yeah.
social connection. And remember, as Muslims, right? What's, if you think of like the social life of a Muslim, like what's it ideally supposed to be like? It's supposed to include stuff like praying in Jama'ah, praying in the masjid, Eid Salah, everyone together, janazah,
Mm,
physically you have
mm,
to go to the janazah, visiting the
yep.
sick, right? Going physically
Yep.
visiting the sick, knowing the people in your locality, because otherwise, how do you give to the needy if you don't know the needy, right? That's why Allah specifically says, as a separate category, is as-sa'ilin, those that are asking for help. There are
Mm,
those who ask and those who don't ask. Those who don't ask would be the ones you know. You know, and you know they're needy, and you give them without them having to ask. There is Jum'ah, Salatul Jum'ah. There is Silat Rahim, right? The ties of kinship, as they say. There's all these things that are built into our religion that focuses on the locality, right? The real life, the people you live around, your local
yeah.
community. And over the last 2-3 years, I've just more and more like understood the benefit of that and the beauty of that actually, in terms of, the difference between watching a series of lectures online versus sitting with a scholar. Even that scholar's not as knowledgeable, not as famous, not as this and that, but you're sitting at his feet, you're learning the adab that comes with it, not just purely information, etc. That's the comparison. Even local volunteering, the basics, bro. Another actually analogy is the guy who, I don't know, the guy who does like pull-up videos on TikTok and puts a hadith and says that's his dawah, versus the one who like goes to his elderly non-Muslim neighbor and offers to do their shopping, right? Like that kind
Yeah.
of difference. And I'm not like, I don't negate that online version fully at all, but you can't neglect the local stuff. It's obvious
Yeah.
from
Yeah. Yeah.
the code of conduct of Islam. You cannot neglect it. And in fact, try and make that your, I don't know, your 60-70% of your kind of activity. That's what I would say. And even, bro, like in the front row, like I try and, even though it's an online virtual thing, but I try to, the fact that we have calls and you're supposed to come on the call, everyone's supposed to put their camera on, and anyone can interrupt anyone at any moment. It's trying to create a setting where it's like as if we're sitting in a cafe together, where that's
Yeah. Yeah.
that's the reality of meeting up in real life. People can interrupt. There's no such thing as putting your hand up, like on Teams or whatever, you put your hand up or whatever.
Yeah.
You just interrupt someone, or you say, yeah, I just had a point, or whatever it is. You show it on your face that you're about to say something. These are the real
Yeah.
things. So even when it comes to online stuff, the more it's close to real life, the better as far as I'm concerned. So that's a big part in terms of the downsides of this VR, AR kind of future. But then even like that movie, and it's a book originally, Ready Player One, like that's a story in and of itself of, and you could say, what's the core lesson to take from it is the more you place your life online, the online world right now, at least by its nature, is centralized. So it's controllable, very easily controllable, right? You thought the offline world was controllable. Well, get ready for the online world. It's fully controllable, right? Centralized.
Yeah.
You know, you can imagine a company like Apple with $200 billion sitting there, right? The amount of money they make, the amount of access they have to you, right? Imagine you got your iPhone, you got a Mac, you've got an Apple Watch, and you got the headset, right? For example, you got 3-4 of these devices. How much time are you interacting with their ecosystem, their software every day? Could they prod you in a certain direction so that over the course of 5-10 years, you become a kind of separate, like certain person? Could they, you know, ban you for certain, you know, since, you know, your friend Tim Cook is very proud, you know, could he?
Why do you keep saying he's my friend? I've never.
It's just a tease. I don't know, it's just because you're from Brighton, I guess.
Yeah. Thank you, man. Thank you, man.
So,
Thank you.
So the point is, so Ready Player One, it was about centralization. It was the fact that one guy controlled what everyone had invested their whole life in. And he could kick them out of life, basically. That is the other problem with this, is it's more centralization. And people were saying this about Meta, right? Oh, Mark Zuckerberg, he wants to create the metaverse, and we're all going to be controlled by, our metaverse is going to be controlled by him, by one company. And he was trying to, you know, mitigate that by saying, no, it's going to be open, and we're working with all kinds of people. But when Apple does it, no, Apple's cool, right? But it's all centralization.
Yeah, he built it too. He went for the jugular. He should have went from the bottom up.
Yeah.
I know technically he kind of did go from the bottom up a little bit with Oculus, but to just come out and flat out say, "Oh, I've created an alternative world and we're all going to do this inside it," you shouldn't have done that.
Yes,
Because people that would just scare people off. But going kind of like Apple's route of going, let's go AR, and look, the goggles are see-through, and it's not actually, you're not anywhere else, you're still in your space, and this is just complementing your life. And then like 10 years down the line, it would just be a seamless transition into a fully virtual world.
Yeah, exactly. It's
that's how
what was it? Cook a frog, that cook a frog thing? Boil a frog?
Man, I ain't French. Nah, no French things here, bro. This is no French zone.
Well, they say, you know, if you throw a frog into boiling water, it'll jump out. But if you put it in water and slowly warm it up, then you'll boil it that way. Yeah, it's that whole thing. But again, Apple is a company. It's not a government, right? Apple's not a democracy. Apple has no, you know, rights or responsibilities towards the people of the world, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, in the end, they only are responsible towards shareholders and maybe customers in a certain very limited way. But otherwise, bro, like, people blame governments for all kinds of things, but you need to turn your attention a bit towards these players who have revenues bigger than the GDP of many countries. And if this whole AR thing goes well, they will control huge portions of your life and the way you interact with the world. And as you know, as we know, the non-Muslims, they have very little barrier between them and the shaitan. Shaitan will influence them easily, right? They have two problems. There's two problems for us, bro. These people have so much power. They follow their desires because they can't withhold their desires. They're not Muslim, right? They don't have that help from Allah, that guidance from Allah. And they're fully open, vulnerable to shaitan's whispers. Double yani, right? And so, you know, whether they're ill-intentioned or not, let's be real. Shaitan will use them as means to do what he does, which is humiliate us and destroy. Shaitan, I was talking about it to my friend today. I was like, yeah, you know what? Shaitan doesn't even want to go to Jannah, right? He's like, I'm going Jahannam. I don't want to get out of Jahannam, go to Jannah. I just want you guys to come with me. So he's completely a
Mm,
destructive force. He wants to only destroy. He doesn't want to fix even himself for his own
mm,
like benefit, yani. So he just wants to fully
mm.
destroy. And he will those if the people that have a lot of power have no barrier from shaitan, then he'll fully exploit that.
Yeah, and that's the thing. There's no barrier between them and their desires because in their worldview, all desires are fine as long as you're not harming anyone else.
Yeah,
That's I suppose
yeah,
that's what they say in
yeah,
public as well. But there
yeah,
are some that will, even if they harm someone else, their desires are more important.
yeah.
And you've seen that with
Especially,
all these scandals and these paedophilia things and these Epstein's Island and blah 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 and this and that. And that even that envelope will get pushed until it becomes acceptable through all sorts of various arguments and means and God knows whatever else. You've got that at the moment with that what's it, TV presenter guy. Um, anyway, there's a scandal with him and paedophilia and all this stuff. I don't know. Um, yeah, man, it's just dark and twisted, and it's weird because it's kind of spearheaded by this liberal agenda as well that we kind of mentioned, we spoke about last week. Because these are all being created within that paradigm.
they're
These
all
aren't
based
being
in
created in
California.
no based in California, Silicon Valley. They're all got these filters on them. They're all, especially the AI stuff. It's all, it's woven within the fabric of its development. These kind of worldviews and these agendas
Yeah,
and stuff.
yeah.
And you can see that very simply by just
OpenAI founder
trying
is
to.
proud as well.
They're all very proud, very proud. But it's fully an insidious takeover. Even if there was that clip once of that. I can't remember who he is, but he was talking about it doesn't have to be a conspiracy. It's just that the shared interests align. So
Yeah,
society goes in that way. You're talking about shaitan, and you've mentioned before on podcasts how shaitan inspires even non-Muslims to further an agenda, a worldwide agenda into this sort of stuff. And part of that is like changing the creation of Allah, forcing people to chase their desires,
mm,
making people discontent with what they have, and they always want more, and whatever more it is isn't enough. So they want more explicit things and more
mm,
depraved things, and nothing will ever be enough. So there's always going to be this pursuit of depravity and you know dark and twisted things. And it does make you think, actually. You know, you read about that hadith of the end times, and even 10, 15 years ago, you'd read certain things and think, how did that ever happen? You know, where the killer doesn't know why he's been killed,
yeah,
and the person killing doesn't know why he's done it.
yeah,
And now you think about it, like, I could imagine, after seeing that TikTok prankster doing crazy stuff, I could imagine somebody in some dystopian society that's not far from here, going around just mercilessly murdering people, just like we saw, funnily enough, back at the New Zealand Christchurch shooting,
mm,
where that man was live streaming the murder of Muslims, and he had an audience, you know. But if you were to ask him, I would obviously ever give him a platform. He doesn't deserve anything. But that could happen where people are just killing people for views, and people who've been killed wouldn't know why they've necessarily been killed. What have they done? And is that
yeah,
too far away? Because if you were to present that to, somebody in ancient Arabia during the dawn of Islam, they wouldn't understand it. They'd be like, that doesn't make sense. Why would that ever happen? What is going to happen to society for that to happen? People committing crimes for no personal gain, just because they want views or attention. It's crazy. Crime used to be something where you would have some sort of monetary value at the end of it. You could
mm,
sell something, or you could benefit your own life somehow.
yeah.
Imagine you committing crimes, and there's the only thing you get in return is attention, whether positive or negative. That's
That's the
it.
currency. Yeah,
It's the currency. This kid, literally, he didn't. I mean, one could argue, oh, he might get business deals and exposure. And people use that argument all the time. Oh, I just need exposure, so then I can bank off the exposure. It's not guaranteed. You might just go to prison. But that's all you're going to get.
yeah.
Um,
Well, they say
so yeah, man.
all Was it all attention? Is it not attention? All something anyway. All attention is good attention. You know, attention in and
Yeah,
of itself is good. That's the
attention
phrase.
is the currency.
Yeah,
Attention is the currency. It's just dark and twisted. It makes you worry about children raising your children in this, not just this society, but this time
yeah,
in the dunya. It's
yes,
a very
yeah.
strange age in the dunya
There
because
was
this isn't
that
exclusive to us.
there was that woman. It was a couple. They were like trying to get big on YouTube or something, and they were doing one of these dares, shocking dare kind of video. And
Yeah,
the girlfriend, she shot her boyfriend dead. She didn't mean it. It was like they were doing some mad like Russian roulette thing. I can't remember. It was insane.
right.
She shot him. He died. She went jail 10 years. I don't know for what? For growing your YouTube.
Hmm. I'm so glad we didn't grow up now.
Hmm.
Like, I'm so glad we didn't grow up now
Yeah, it's tough.
because and I don't know what schools are like. I don't because I'm not in that environment. I haven't really got a taste of that environment. Um, I just couldn't imagine because when we were like 13, 12, 13, we used to think, oh, teenagehood is tough, man. These social pressures are tough, trying to fit in, blah, blah, blah. And even when you'd leave, even back then, you would leave school and probably still think about, school popularity politics and stuff.
Yeah,
Imagine now, like we've said it before, that follows you home and that is just, it surrounds you.
yeah, tough.
I remember leaving school, bro, leaving like junior school and going to secondary, and I just lost contact with all my junior school friends. Like that was it. Didn't see them at all.
Started fresh.
Never saw them again. Started fresh. You could
A lot of
reinvent
people
yourself. You
do
could
that. Yeah,
whatever.
they reinvent themselves. Yeah.
Yeah, but now that's impossible. Like
Oh
you're probably
yes.
friends with them on Instagram,
Yeah,
and you'll
yeah,
continue
yeah.
to be friends with them, and you
I
continue to
see.
be connected. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah. And obviously
now
that
whatever happened.
that happens with bullying as well. So like you can't bullying is not just at school now, it's ongoing, right?
Yeah, because there'll be a video of you getting bullied, and that will be shared, and then everybody in the neighborhood,
They'll
everybody in the
tag you.
city will see.
Oh my God.
They'll tag you. Yeah, you'll just be. No wonder, like, imagine that. Imagine you're a 13-year-old boy. You get beaten up in the shower, not shower, sorry, in the toilet. You get beaten up in the toilet, or shared bathrooms, or whatever, or some sort of scandal happens, or it could be anything. You might disagree with some sort of agenda that's being pushed on you at school. As a Muslim, let's go that way. As you're a Muslim boy, you get, I don't know, there's some sort of pride party going on. You don't want to partake. The teacher shouts at you. Someone records it. Boom. You're now known for that, and you'll forever be known for that. You could be a meme overnight. You could be a meme at the gym, and you don't even know you're a meme. Someone's recording you. You could be on the street and you get pooped on by a seagull, and you get recorded, and now everybody knows this you. Oh, you're that guy who got pooped on by a seagull. You're, you're that guy. Yeah. um, yeah, it's a minefield out there. No wonder people don't want to leave the house.
You just reminded me. I saw this video. I watched one or two of these stupid types of videos on YouTube, and then they started getting all recommended to me. Okay, this guy in Florida,
Yeah.
it was like a news, one of those news clips. Okay, this older man, bro, must be 60 something. He basically he was telling the story. These two, I think a man and a woman, they came to rob his house. Okay, he's like, so I got my gun. And he said, I got my gun. They saw me with the gun. They started running away. He said, I shot him. He said, I shot him. And then he said, and the lady was telling me, don't shoot, I'm pregnant. I shot her anyway.
Oh, no.
And
Oh, no.
I mean, I'm laughing, but he actually killed her. He actually killed her. And then they found out later she wasn't pregnant. She was just saying that so he wouldn't shoot her. And then, yeah, I don't know why I'm sharing this, but it was wild. It was one of those internet moments. But I guess I'm laughing and it's not funny. It's the two sides of it is not funny. It's not funny people are robbing an old guy, like, come on. And then it's not funny as well that now they're both, not both, no, I think the woman died. He shot the woman, she died. The guy, he didn't get him. So two kind of very sad things, bro. But because it's like a kind of meme on the internet, it's like now I'm laughing at it. What the hell?
It's crazy. It's crazy. It's absolutely insane.
But bro,
I don't
actually,
think like we're sleepwalking into it, man.
yeah. Into
You know,
what?
society into this chaos. Like society is just sleepwalking into the chaos, and there's
Yeah.
no
But the thing is, we're aware
authority
of
to
it.
stop it.
Like we're aware that
Yeah, but
it's
like
happening, and we're just like,
yeah,
what can
but
I do?
any entity. But the thing is, you combine this with the kind of, I don't know, what's the word, like counter authority. So like we don't want to be oppressed, and we don't want our freedoms taken away, and we don't want this and that. Like as bad as governments are in the world, the only people that could enforce a restriction on this stuff are governments, right? So let's say out of the blue, I don't know, the government wanted to restrict this for the betterment of society. Let's say they actually really sincerely had that. People would start writing in the streets about, freedoms and democracy and all this stuff, and is you're being too authoritarian, and I want my Apple products and this and that, right? Um, yeah, there's no filter. There's nothing. As long as as long as people don't see harm immediately in front of them, then they don't mind. They
Yeah.
don't care, and that goes with everything. They'll say, "Oh, as long as nobody's getting hurt." Well, what if people get hurt 20 years from now? We don't know that, so let's just keep going into this.
Yeah.
Keep going down
And
this
it
path.
becomes very difficult to resist these things because often it's very convenient, right? Like even we're talking about, for example, getting into the Apple ecosystem. It's very convenient. The AI stuff, it gives a lot of convenience. It's all convenient. Phones is convenient. Whatever, TikTok scrolling kind of thing. It's all convenient. It's all convenient, bro. So it's hard to say, I can't see a clear black and white bad thing here. Plus, it's very convenient.
Yeah.
So why would I resist? That's pretty much
Yeah.
that's what happened. But, actually, I was thinking about doing an episode on this, but it doesn't actually need maybe a whole episode. I was talking about how companies, companies like Apple, very powerful and doesn't have the same, how do you say it? In legal terms or in black and white terms on paper, doesn't have the same responsibilities towards people as governments, right? It's not a democracy, etc. So the question is, when we talk about conspiracy theories and we talk about some of the madness, that we have observed over the last 3 years and other things, invasion of Iraq, whatever you want to say, who is it? It's always they're doing this, they're doing that. Who is they? I think I actually have the answer.
Wow, because I don't think there's a they, but go for it.
There is definitely a they. There is definitely there's concerted effort to do certain things over the times. Yeah, it depends what it is. Different times called for different things. But just look at the response to Corona. The fact that it was so unified, not just it would be normal if there was a unification around the idea that, it's bad, it's an illness. No, but exactly how to deal with it was unified, and the censorship was all unified. It's all unified. So where's it all coming from? Even, I think Elon Musk, he retweeted this. It was a video of like 50 different news channels all using exact same wording for something. You saw that, yeah?
I saw that, yeah.
This is what I'm talking about. Where's that come from? Who spread that message to all these 50 channels that you must use this wording and you must say this thing, right? There is some level of unified agenda, okay? So who is it? It can't be governments because governments, we see a real life competition between governments and I'm trying to do this, I'm invading you, I'm doing this and that. It's not governments. Governments are being told what to do by these people, right? There is a group of people that have clear links with each other, and they're all very powerful people, okay? I started off with BlackRock. BlackRock is a investment management company. They manage $10 trillion worth of investments, right? So wealthy people, maybe also pension funds and different people, they give them money to invest it and make the money over time. But what that means is they manage apparently it's more than that, but the reported amount is $10 trillion. You know what, like the GDP of Turkey, I think it's like 700 billion, okay? Or the GDP of the US, I think is it 10 trillion or 2 trillion? But anyway, look, look at this, the amount of wealth that they're managing. And what this means is, if you think of any major company that has influence in the world, Disney, Apple, Facebook, any of them. Search top shareholders, Facebook, top shareholders, Apple. What will you find? BlackRock's there. Yeah. And there are a couple others. There's Vanguard, there's State Street. Yeah, these are the three, I think. They combined, who knows how much they manage in terms of investments, maybe 50 trillion or 30 trillion, whatever it is. They control huge amounts of the flow of money, okay? And that's the thing. When you own 5% of Apple, for example, you have a lot of leverage over Apple. You can, behind closed doors, you could get a seat on their board, right, which gives you influence.
Yeah, 100%.
Or you could just go to the CEO and be like, look, you can actually be quite threatening and give ultimatums. You can say, look, our ethos for investing is that we only invest in companies that do X, and we need you to do X. Otherwise, we're going to sell off our 5% share and your stock will crash. Yeah. How about that? How about you lose your job and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So this is real life. They can do these things. And now I'm saying multiply that by all these public companies that they have these 5 to 7%, 5 to 10% holdings in. Okay. So these companies are like, I would say I start with those. But then who are these companies linked to? So I just asked Bard here, what's the link between Larry Fink and Klaus Schwab? Larry Fink is the CEO of BlackRock, and Klaus Schwab is the founder of the World Economic Forum, okay? The two men have a long history of working together. Fink has been a member of the World Economic Forum's Board of Trustees since 2009, more than 10 years. And he has spoken at an annual meeting of the World Economic Forum on several occasions, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I'm sure we could do further research into these guys' relationship. Then you have, I don't know, like Bill Gates comes up a lot. Bill Gates is also close to these guys. Specifically, I know he's close to Klaus Schwab. That's why he's one of the main guys, World Economic Forum. He's always talking there, blah, blah, blah. These guys go back. One of the mentors of, what's his name? Of Klaus Schwab is none other than Henry Kissinger, you know? Henry Kissinger is like well-known politician, US politician. He is one of the, shayateen, to be honest, of the US government. He had a lot of influence in, I think it was him, bro. You know when I think it was King Faisal, he said, we're going to stop selling oil to the US until they do X, Y, Z or something like that. Was it him?
He used to be a Secretary of State. I think it was him. 1943 to 1946.
So who was it? Right. Who was it that went over to King Faisal and gave him the threat and the ultimatum? It was Henry Kissinger, I believe. Yeah.
I know it was someone. I know. I'm aware of this. Yeah. I think it might have been him.
Yeah, Henry Kissinger. Oh, yeah. Then who was one of the main guys behind the invasion of Iraq? Henry Kissinger. Henry Kissinger is, he's high ranking among Shaitan. Yeah. He was involved in producing a report, which was all about how do we control the world, and he was doing it from a U.S. government point of view. But like, what are the areas in the world where we need to like pay attention and do certain activities to make sure we have the upper hand and we have access to the resources we need and stuff. So, for example, he said one of the problem areas is Indonesia. Indonesia has loads of resources, but it has a high population growth, and they're all Muslims. And we don't like that. So he therefore, I think there was a recommendation in the report, like we need to introduce, what they call it, contraceptives and all that, women's freedom, whatever they call the words they use for it. Like there's literally like, look at all parts of the world, we want access to the resources, or we want to stop any potential, they call it the, Noam Chomsky, he called it the threat of a good example. Yeah. Like we don't want none of these countries to have some sort of good example of independence or whatever. So the report, this report was published by Henry Kissinger. So Henry Kissinger is mentor of Klaus Schwab. So the point is, when you get a lot of money, a lot of power, these guys come together and they've got their ideology, bro. Like if these guys were all Muslim, what do you think they'd be doing? We would be, instead of seeing like whatever it is, censorship of you can't mention the word vaccine or whatever in your YouTube videos, we would be seeing you can't mention Jesus is the Son of God or whatever, right? We'd be seeing a different thing. So these guys have a lot of power, a lot of influence. I've given some examples of how they can literally tell Meta how to tweak their algorithm, and they will tweak their algorithm based on it, right?
Yeah, yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and so you might ask, okay, what's their agenda? But the fact of the matter is they have the power. I think I've established that, and their agenda is whatever their agenda is. It almost doesn't matter. It's just that they believe certain things are right and certain things are wrong, and they want to impact the world in the way they see fit, and so they do that. Some of these guys, I don't know, people have talked about how they have, a lot of these guys seem to have eugenics ideas in terms of certain people are more fit to be alive than others. Certain people, we want a balance of how many people are in the world, right? We need the right level of slaves for us. But we also want like enough freedom so they don't rebel. And they think they can play Allah basically. And so that's part of the agenda, no doubt. But then also Shaitan influences them, etc. So that's who they is, bro.
Yeah. The thing is, you can't separate human nature from them as well, even the positives of human nature. So, one would ask why, how can one still want more when they have everything? It's, they also have children. These people have children, and it's also maintaining the wealth and passing on the wealth and making
Yeah,
sure that their children have that wealth. Because any human, even a shaitan, give can have a baby and still love that baby and want what's best for that baby. They're not
sure.
like, they've got that inherent thing within them that
Yeah.
they still care and
I
love
don't know
and
if they,
feel
yeah.
capacity for love.
Although they're probably
So
not
they'll
worried
have
about their
children,
kids
and
like financially.
yeah, but there will be because they'll think the name, the legacy.
Oh yeah,
Why a lot
that,
of these companies are
yes.
named after
Yeah, yeah,
themselves? So they want that
yeah.
name to live on. Whether it's like Wells Fargo or you
Mm,
know, I don't know, flipping Warren Buffett, and I don't know what level he's on, but or even the Rothschilds, for example,
yeah,
or the Rockefellers, that kind of stuff. Like they want that name, they want that legacy. The same thing that any Jahil would want. Um, well, not even Jahil, human. Any human being would want to let their legacy carry on. So
mm,
these are things you can't separate from them,
mm,
and that is also a motivator for this kind of stuff. And when I said, "Oh, I don't think these people exist,"
yeah.
what I meant is like the caricature of like Illuminati sitting at the round table every week.
Okay.
They have a Zoom meeting where they discuss their work, taking over the world agenda. A lot of it is crossover and overlap of shared interests and shared ideas. And yes, there are going to be occasions of concerted efforts, such as the COVID thing, where they will try and
Yeah,
unanimously agree something because
yeah.
there's money to be made. But every calamity is an opportunity, and even calamities that can be created to present
Well,
opportunities,
for sure.
such as this, this kind of gender dysphoria thing. It was an
Yeah.
opportunity. It's like, if we push this gender dysphoria thing on kids, and we also invest in all these private medical companies that do surgeries and give these puberty blockers, whatever, well, then we push over here to get our return on investment over
Oh,
here.
for sure. That's
You
part
know,
of it, for sure. Yeah.
yeah,
And usually
100%.
the two come hand
Likewise,
in hand, like the profits and the control and influence, they come together. And
100%. Because like, if you genuinely think that, like, look at the Target thing at the moment, where it's like
mm,
Target is giving money to all these different things. Like, do you think like all of Target's shareholders really deeply care? Some of them would. Some of them want to promote that agenda because they have that. A lot of them probably have been affected by it and want to essentially take any ideology wants to dominate the world. If you say Islam, if someone comes up to you and says, "Do you want Islam for the whole world?" You'd be lying if you said no. Let's just be upfront about it. I believe Islam is the best thing for everybody in the whole planet.
it's
Would I
salvation.
want the whole world to be Muslim? Yeah. Would I want the whole world to be Muslim? Of course I would. Likewise, other people think whatever they do is the best thing for the world. You know,
Yeah.
whether it's, I don't know, democracy and liberalism, or whether it's, I don't know, socialism or conservative or communism or whatever ism you want to follow. They also think it's the best thing.
Yeah.
Some people say, and that's the thing. So they want to promote that any means necessary. So there will be people who hold those powerful keys and the keys to the purse to
Yeah.
promote that kind of stuff. Like Disney, for example. Disney's CEO, I think, at the moment, I think it was a lady. Is it Amy Pascal? I mean,
I thought it was Bob Iger. Or
who's
did he leave?
Pascal? Oh, she's a film producer. Oh, I'm thinking of someone else. No, that's not the one. There was a woman in. She does Spider-Man movies. There was a woman, some sort of woman who's head of Disney, or some sort of head of Disney. She was talking about all these like how they've like basically secreted all of these ideologies within Disney films lately and Disney TV
Ah,
shows. You know, Buzz Lightyear had like a gay couple, prominent one. There was
wow.
also another film that kind of flopped that they released where it was like the main characters were homosexual. Um, Lots of things. There was a Turning Red, I think, another animated film which I didn't see, but my wife said that it's. I don't think she saw it. She just read about it. Um, Once again, just crazy stuff, just weird stuff,
Mm.
just that kind of stuff,
Mm.
non-conforming stuff. And she came out and said, "Oh, my child is this. I've got one child that's this, and I've got one child that's that." Even Jordan Peterson
I
spoke
wonder
about this
why.
because he
I
said
wonder
that,
where that came from.
yeah, because he said that the statistically speaking, it's like absolutely impossible that she's got three kids that will have this. Like
Yeah,
it's insanely
yeah,
ridiculous
yeah,
stats. So it's definitely something else.
yeah.
You know, something else going on here. But because you're the leader of that, you can push all of that stuff because you, going back to what I said earlier, the inherent desire to love and care for your kids is also something that fuels these people. And you can't take that away from them. Not everything they do is like a sinister, concerted effort to be evil and to just have greed and to have
Mm.
more. There are also these agendas that actually play with people's emotions. Because you've got to remember as well, if this stuff has been happening for God knows how long, well, somebody's lifetime is only 100 years or so, right? This stuff has stretched way beyond that. So what else is motivating people within their lifetimes to do crazy things like this or push certain agendas like this? Um, People used to talk about like the UFO conspiracies and stuff. Um, Obviously, there's a whole can of worms there. I don't want to open that up, but people would have had to keep secret or keep quiet for generations. Like you could be on your deathbed, right, and you could just let everything out. Why would you care? You're about to die. Why not tell the world there's aliens? Or why not tell the world there's this and that? Why not? I don't know. Lord knows.
Yeah.
Like 9/11 is another one, for example. Everybody talks about, I mean, I'm a firm believer there was an inside job and whatever. But we're getting to that point now where like there's people dying that are involved in that, like the government and whatever. So why aren't things being released? Allah alam. What I'm saying is, it's not always a big conspiracy and concerted effort. It's also
Mm.
the overlapping of things. It's also, oh, I've got an opportunity here, and actually, this company here, this organization can benefit me, and I can benefit them to multiply our rewards, multiply our profits.
Yeah.
And also, don't discount one last thing. Sorry, is that you can convince yourself wrongly that these people are all united in their agenda as well. You know, when they're not. Any organization you work for, on the lowest level, they'll be competing with a different department. You know, you could work at Disney, and the VFX department could be dismissive and argumentative with the audio department, for example, on a film, or the actors will fight with the makeup artists, or there isn't this unified uh, kind of thing that maybe Islam maybe promotes more. Even Islam, I mean, Muslims aren't necessarily the most unified people, and they are ordained. They are told by Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, who we all should fear the most, to be unified. But we can't do that. So let alone, you know, people that are going to actually stab each other in the back, people that are going to do all sorts. You see that on a public level with politicians now. You know, oh, people turned on Boris Johnson, but then he turned on Rishi Sunak, and then they're turning on Suella Braverman, and then they're all at each other's necks for leadership anyway. So it kind of happens as well with private companies. Um,
I think
you might think that they're all got this game plan, but
the lower the level,
they're still human.
the lower the level in the hierarchy, the more they will have different agendas. But the higher up you go, the more they'd be united, I think. And remember, they're united
Because
around big things. Like, for example, Muslims, all Muslims are united around the Quran, for example. The Quran is the truth, is from Allah, etc. Okay? So, you know, those kind of big idea things. So for these guys, for example, their big idea might be that if people like us are going to preserve our status, then we need to do X. You know, they might be generally just united around these general kind of ideas. And the way they
there's
implement it
definitely
has differences. But I think, bro, like if you look at human beings, and you know, many people listening and us, we've heard of different stories of different people and how they acted, right, in different circumstances. And what can happen when you get, there's levels of what people do with their money. Okay. So when you're like certain level, you're just trying to feed your family. Then you're trying to live more comfortably and have a more comfortable thing for your family. Then you're trying to like invest maybe and like move, like invest for the next generation and blah, blah, blah. Then, for example, people who are in business and stuff, it doesn't become about the money. It becomes about the sport and the challenge of growing your business and competing with other businesses. And it's not really about the money anymore. The money is just to keep the score, right? But beyond that, when you get to these, people worth several hundred million or billions of dollars, it becomes not about any of those things. It becomes about influence and power. And how can I, and also a lot of paranoia. And these people are plotting and trying to take it away from me. I think that's what gets switched on at that level of wealth. And so why are they doing this? Well, they're paranoid. They want to keep their spot. Yeah, like you said, maybe they want to keep the spot for their family and stuff. They want to be remembered. These people, they often cling to the dunya. What is the best way they can cling to the dunya? Is by having a legacy, right? And having something influence you had on the world that in 200-300 years is still there. And you won't know that, once you're dead. But to know that in my lifetime, I'm trying to spread my influence and gain that, that's something these guys work towards. So, and then also, I'm sure you've heard many stories of people who they get to such a level of, I don't know how it comes exactly, but it's either like focus on money or wealth or your own needs and wants, but you actually become narcissistic meaning like you actually consider other people's feelings and lives and the pain they feel to be irrelevant. They actually believe that. They actually believe, well, if he died, he wouldn't mind, would he? I wouldn't mind if I died, but he wouldn't mind, right? That's narcissism, I believe. Or it's a sociopath. A sociopath. That's actually definitely a sociopath. Sorry. Yeah. Like so imagine that thinking and that illness, whatever you want to call it, applied to someone like, who's, CEO of BlackRock or whatever, right? Imagine that. Oh, how many people were killed in Iraq again? Before they even invaded, there was that, the sanctions, which killed, was it 500,000 people? Right? To a narcissist, bro, or a sociopath, that's like normal. That's collateral damage. So, they were suffering anyway. It's better off for them. They make these crazy justifications in their mind and they believe it really to be true, right? So easily you could imagine them saying that about, okay, now on the planet we've got 9 billion people. We can't go beyond 9 billion. The other billion, for example, that are going to be born and try and live and stuff, it's better for them to die. For me, no, I need to live. I need to. But for them, so they start to see anyone but themselves as kind of being inferior. And that's where, bro, like slavery thrived and the, transatlantic slavery. That's where these things, how they happened and how they were fully justified by people.
Well, that's it. Well, we're not too privy to the deep dark secrets of history, because all of that stuff, to be abolished, it would have had to be replaced by the powers that be with some other method, and this is it. This is the other method.
Yes.
But one thing I wanted to say is that, back when I was 17, 18, maybe a bit younger, maybe a bit older, it was very, very heavy.
Invited to a special meeting.
No, well, I was speaking to some people in particular about this kind of stuff, and they were hopeless, bro. They were just like, there's no point doing anything because they've taken over the world. And also Islam as well has been a victim of it. So like they'll say this group and that group are all created by the CIA, or they're created by this, or they're created by that. That means your Islam is infiltrated by these people. You can't trust any imams because the imams are infiltrated by these people. They have their agendas as well. Oh, look, Osama bin Laden used to work for the CIA. That's one example. And then use that example with other things. And on that mosque that you go to is actually infiltrated. And that person who shook hands with the government official, he's actually part of it. And there's nothing left. And then, I used to hear people, bro, that would say, oh, this happened in Tunisia, bro. they'd say, oh, the ahadith are created by, they're made up and they're created by this person, this
Messy.
group and that group. They'll
Messy.
say the Yehud made this and the Yehud made that. They blame everything on the Yehud, and actually, there's no point doing anything because that's it. It's all finished. When you step back, you realize that the same thing that will topple your own desires and will also topple these huge organizations and powerful entities is Islam. It's just you adhering to Islam,
Yes.
because it 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 demolishes your desires, it demolishes your nafs, it demolishes the shaitan within you, and it demolishes any attempt of the shayateen out there, even if you were to lose your life in the process. If you were to lose your life in the process and Islam still remains within the people, look what it's doing now. Islam is a thorn in the backside of all of these agendas, no matter what it is, because it is immovable, it is an immovable object in the road that they cannot seem to get rid of, no matter how many people have tried. Burn up all the Quran will come back tomorrow, as they say, because it's in people's hearts and minds. You get rid of all, you try and persecute Muslims and get rid of Islam and make Islam a kind of a boogeyman in society. Well, you've kind of shot yourself in the foot because the birth rates are still up. I mean, look at Palestine. Shahid Bolson mentioned it regarding like demographics of Palestine and Israel. He said that if Israel was to hypothetically, if there was a one-state solution for this Israel-Palestine problem, okay, and Israel was to say, okay, everybody in Gaza and the West Bank, you are now Israeli citizens. We're going to make one country. It's called Israel. Overnight, the Jews would be a minority because of demographic. And if it was truly democratic, then the Philistines would vote a Palestinian tomorrow, just based on demographic, because there's not enough Jews in Israel to sustain a viable Jewish majority population, let alone in the whole world. So it just shows you that no matter what you do, if you adhere to these values, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam advised us and wanted us to increase his ummah. That's just one sunnah that is a thorn in the backside of all these people that are trying to promote all these agendas. It's not going to happen, and now you see it, even human nature. The return to that which is traditional. The counterculture now is to have a wife and kids and live in a traditional family, maybe a traditional house, and blah blah blah. Because there is something, no doubt, the fitrah, no doubt, calls for this. The fitrah goes to this, and that's what I want to bank on when we go back to what we were talking about initially, which is the VR, which is the dystopia, which is the immersing yourself on the online world. I would like to think that hopefully we can bank on some element of human beings wanting to return. I mean, we see it now, don't we? How many people just get this uneasy feeling and they just want to unplug from everything, and they go and hike a mountain and get away from all of this stuff. And there is definitely a counterculture movement now of even non-Muslims and stuff that just want to live off grid, or they want to, be more in tune with nature. And if the ish is to hit the fan tomorrow, they would be the most capable and the most skilled because they've lived in a less convenient life for longer. They've engaged in less convenience.
I think, what we're saying is, I think it's true, but the way you react to it, that's the important part. And you don't have to worry about how such people or agendas would be toppled. Allah will sort that out. You don't have to worry. You don't have to think 20 steps ahead. Even the Prophet ﷺ was not thinking 20 steps ahead, right? He was putting his effort. He was asking Allah for help, and Allah opened the way for him so many times, right? And so we just need to do the same thing. Look at the next maybe 1, 2, 3 steps and do each of them with ikhlas, and that's your way forward. You can never be intimidated by these people, even though I'm saying it as though a big deal, $10 trillion and all that. Yes, in worldly sense, it's a lot, but in the end, Allah is above all that. Allah is above all that.
Nothing.
And Allah promised to give victory to his slaves. It's just like, will you be part of the victory and all of that? And will you play your part or not? That's what it's about. It's not about, there's no hopelessness here. There's no hopelessness. It's just, for me, this is kind of like basic awareness, just how you live in a dangerous neighborhood. You need to know kind of what's going on in the neighborhood, how to stay out of trouble. It's the same kind of thing, because we live in a very globalized world where, you know, one guy on the other side of the world has an influence on your local area, etc. So yeah, actually,
Yeah, this. Yeah,
I pulled up this speech, right, because you know, I was talking about Apple being very powerful and big company. President Kennedy, he gave that speech in 1962. And what did he say? He said, the concentration of economic power is as dangerous to our liberties as the concentration of political power. So it's like he was
mm,
aware of certain companies, lobbies, all this becoming too powerful, and being able actually to control politicians and not have the politicians be in control of the, you know, the regulation and the
yeah,
rules, right? What else? Yeah, so he said that. He said, if we fail to keep the concentration of economic power in check, it is a threat to the very basis of our democracy. The future of our country depends on whether we can prevent the concentration of economic power from becoming too great, blah, 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 right? So he seemed to know about this. He said it in a speech in 1962. He was assassinated in 1963, right? So I don't know what he was
uh,
doing, what was happening behind the scenes or whatever, but the fact that a president said that, like, presidents are under this pressure from outside forces. Don't think the presidents are the ones calling the shots. You have been taught to direct your frustrations towards governments, but they are not the top of the table, you know?
yeah, 100%, 100%. Yeah, you'd be a fool to think that. And like I said, there's nuance with it all. There's nuance with everything that you see. You just need to be aware of that, I suppose. Not think so black and white with it. You know, we spoke about it recently in that group chat. They were talking about like Erdogan's oath, weren't they? They were like, "Oh, he's made an oath that's non-conforming to Islam, and it's can't, you know, whatever."
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, it's messy. It's very messy. All that stuff's messy. I wouldn't want to do it. Someone's
Yeah.
got to do it though.
Yeah.
In this day and age, someone's got to do it, but I don't want to do it. That's what I'll say.
Yeah.
There is no all or nothing. Like people think that there really is like an all or nothing. Like it's like all Islam or nothing in this day and age. Okay, see how long you last. With all due respect, I'd love that ideology. You know, the idealism is great. Let's all dream about the utopia, but in reality, you won't last 2 seconds. You bring no benefit to anybody, and all you're going to do is, I don't know, get yourself killed and get your family hurt and killed or whatever. You've always got something to lose, whether it's your life or whether it's, you know, someone hold something over your head. Uh, People expect any Muslim politician to turn around and say Sharia tomorrow. That's what we're doing.
Mm.
Uh, okay, good luck with that. How's that going to happen without bloodshed, without pillaging, and all sorts of stuff that other groups might want to advocate for? And other groups have tried to do that and have come and gone. You know, whether it's Daesh, whether it's all the other groups, I don't know. They come and go. But that approach doesn't necessarily work either in this modern geopolitical interconnected world. So yeah, have some nuance. You know, one thing I want to talk about very briefly is, you know, we mentioned it earlier about the digital. What did we say about these snapshots of people? You know, and how actually we need to get out there and do stuff physically and do
Mm.
stuff, you know, in communities and that community element.
Mm.
And that reminds me, also, we pass judgments based on physical snapshots, on digital snapshots. You know, we're
Okay.
talking about it last episode of how there's internet critics, and then there's people that are out there in the communities, and
Mm.
you could essentially judge an internet critic based on all of their content online because that's all they do is produce internet content. But can you judge a community leader the same way when actually that picture they took next to so and so, or that, you know, interview they gave is a snapshot of their entire works, because most of their works is done out there in the streets and in the communities and
Mm.
with people. You can't, you know,
Mm. Mm.
and that you can go to extremes with that. This person sat with that person. That person once sat with that person who said this thing, and actually, that makes this person is now Ahlul Bid'ah now because he sat
Mm.
with that person who sat with that person who chatted with that person who was on the poster of this event.
Mm.
And I'm
Who
not, I'm
sent a
not even
WhatsApp
actually
to
talking
that
to who.
person and
I've
he
seen
got two ticks?
yeah. He's lost it. But you know, that person in private or in public, and you're just not, it's not on camera, is, you know, I know, yeah, judge by what's apparent. You know, this judge by what's apparent thing. The internet isn't apparent. The internet isn't what's apparent. What's apparent is what's out there. Do you know what I mean? People use that as judged by what's apparent, and I have seen things online and I thought they were apparent, and I realized actually this has been doctored, or this has been changed, or this has been cut up, or this has been twisted, or taken out of context, or whatever it is. Well, even recently there was like an interview, and honestly, someone sent me the interview, and I didn't have time to. It was like a clip from an interview. There was a sheikh who said something that was quite, I don't know, inflammatory, whatever. I didn't have time to click it. I don't think I had my headphones on, whatever. So I just saw it. I saw what the quote was of what they had said, and I was like, "Oh, that's kind of dicey. Oh, that's bad." And then, like, the end of the day, I got home and I thought, "Oh, let me play that clip." I played the clip, and I realized he was clearly being sarcastic. He was like, he was using a sarcastic argument to get his point across. I was like, "Wow, wow!" I just took it as what people said it was when it wasn't that at
Yeah.
all.
Framing is powerful.
And
The way you frame
framing,
something.
100%, 100%. So,
But even, bro, like, judge by what's apparent. Like, judge what? And do you need to judge? Because sometimes it's relevant to judge, but then are you trying to judge a whole person, or are you trying to judge a certain action? And maybe there are times where you need to judge a person, I don't know. But isn't it generally more useful to just judge an action, condemn an action, or, what's the word? Encourage an action? Like, generally just, it's about actions, generally.
yeah, it's dicey, isn't it? I mean, there's a time and place, and you should be wary of who you take your knowledge from, no doubt about it. You know, you want to get to a good level of knowledge where you know the Quran and Sunnah, you know what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from you, you know what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam wanted from us.
Sounds
You know your aqidah. Not, you might not know it inside out, but you know enough to know what is the normative Islamic view and what is closest to Quran and Sunnah. And that's what you should always be chasing anyway. You should be chasing whatever's closest to the Quran and Sunnah. I think that's the most important thing. That's the most vital thing. Because a lot of us, when we start practicing, we do listen to anyone and everyone. And there are definitely people that I've listened to when I started practicing that now I look back at it and I'm like, oh my God, what was that? Why did I do that? And yes, people can get attached to personalities and go down slippery slopes. But at the same time, I think there's adab, there's respect, there is focus. You should be focused on knowledge and not focused on just dicing up people and splitting hairs and who's on what and what this person's doing and what this person's doing. And some people dedicate their entire seeking of knowledge by just focusing on what people are doing and commenting on that. People focus their entire da'wah and reminders and whatever it is that they want to do khair online into just dicing up people and figuring out what the latest gossip is and with regards to who's done what and who's done what. And any concerted effort or positive thing that person does, you say they say, speak good or remain silent. Some people will just speak evil. And if that person does good, the person they're criticizing, they won't say anything. They won't say anything about the person that's done good. But as soon as they do evil, well, look, see, he did the evil. I told you he's evil. I told you he's a bad guy. But he does khair here and there, and he's actually said something positive here and there. Well, no, let's not back him on that. But they will never get to a point where they're comfortable to throw them off Islam. So they're still Muslim, but they don't get the rights of a Muslim brother. So you're not brave enough to make takfir on a person. So they still have rights, but you won't honor those rights by promoting any khair that they do or trying to encourage them in khair or whatever it is. It's just messy. It's just messy, 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 messy. Maybe it's a tangent, but it just reminds me of the isolation that the online world can give you and the twisted kind of viewpoint that you'll have of people. People will only judge you based on these podcasts, maybe. Because that's the most public thing that you do, especially on YouTube videos and stuff. And then you meet someone in the street and they might just treat you a particular way based on something you said on here, or a snapshot or a clip taken out of context or whatever it is. Yeah, and a bit of a monologue there, but
no, it's true, man. I don't know. It's someone. I don't know how this is linked, but I'm finding a way to make it link. Someone messaged me on Instagram. They said, They had a random question. They said, "Did you ever have? Were you Were you always 100% satisfied with how you looked?" I said, "Okay, that's a weird question." I said, "I don't remember like having an issue about that. Maybe they had an issue. They have an issue with it. That's why they're asking me. But you know, a lot of problems go away when you focus on, like, when you're busy, like basically, you know,
Yeah,
when you're
yeah,
busy. Yeah. Actually, that's like the hadith of Prophet ﷺ. احرص على ما ينفعك. Focus on what
100%.
benefits you. Yeah.
100%. It just goes back to Quran and Sunnah every time at all levels. I think that's what's so fascinating about Islam, and that's what just reaffirms my belief that this is it. You know, there is nothing else. This is it. Islam is it. Um, is that how it defeats everything on all levels, from the monopolies of government superpowers and private equity and whatever they want to produce and whatever agenda they want to promote and whatever it is defeated by this. And also on the lowest level, your own desires or your own nafs or whatever it is. If you adhere to Islam, you adhere to the Quran and Sunnah, it defeats that as well. It eradicates that. Um, and yeah, they've tried many times to eradicate just it's not just Islam in terms of from the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam up until now, but from the dawn of time, from Adam alayhi salam.
Yeah.
Every prophet has had the enemy that's tried to eradicate the religion
Yeah.
in various ways. In various ways. Isa alayhi salam had his enemies in the Romans. Ibrahim alayhi salam had his enemy in the Babylonians, in Nimrod. Um,
Ashab
you know,
al-Kahf. Mm.
Ashab al-Kahf, Dawood alayhi salam, a lot of people, a lot of the prophets, Nuh alayhi salam, they all had their enemies. They all had the people that were trying to eradicate what they were preaching or trying to put the light out of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You
Yeah.
know, at that time, everybody thought it was this is it. Those people back then probably thought, oh my God, this is it. Nuh alayhi salam only called a few people to Islam. You know, and the people
Mm.
weren't supporting him. Or Ibrahim alayhi salam on his own being thrown into the fire, the whole society was about to eradicate. To try, he thought they were going to eradicate him and what he was trying to call to.
Yeah.
Look where we are now. Every prayer we are sending salawat on the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and making dua for Ibrahim alayhi salam. And just right now, we think, oh, this is it. It's
That's a
over. It's the
W.
end of the world. They're going to take over. Yeah. Just have trust and follow this path. Join the
It's a
ark, so to
proven
speak.
path.
Get a ride
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, it's a proven
100%.
path. And it's not about, short-term benefits, etc. If you think about the world, obviously a lot of people living in poverty and hardships, but those who are living like comfortably, it's become a big problem for them. That, like we were talking about Apple ecosystem and stuff, you become addicted to convenience. And
100%.
one thing that Islam can do for you is to discipline you and to give you that backbone and that character where it's like, no, like it doesn't matter what you're offering me, I don't want it. And to be able to actually say that. And it reminded me of the hadith of Prophet ﷺ, by Allah, it is not poverty that I fear for you, but rather I fear that you will be given the wealth of the world, just as it was given to those before you. You will compete for it just as they competed for it, and it will ruin you just as it ruined them. So if you think about getting wealth, when you get wealth, you get addicted to convenience, easy life, and then it becomes easy for you to compromise on your principles and hard to stand by your principles, right? Because you need that convenience juice.
100%.
So yeah, Allahumma
100%.
thabbitna. Yeah.
I was going to make the same dua, wallahi, because we don't want to take this for granted, and it's easy to fall off. You could wake up one day and fall off. That's our biggest fear. Like waking up one day and you see other Muslims that fall off. You see people that leave. You see people that lose it. And sometimes you think, how could they do that? Like, how could they do that? But if it can happen to them, it can happen to me. It can happen to me. Sometimes I see brothers, big beard one day, all sorts, whatever. Allahumma barak, and then another day, just fully fallen off publicly, not even like struggling privately, like just public abandonment of everything. I'm like, oh, you can't help but judge, but then at the same time, you're like, oh, I could be me.
Yeah,
I could be me one day,
that should be
you
the
know?
reaction. Yeah.
100%. That could be me. I don't want that to be me. What would have to go through my mind for that to happen? And you can't fathom it. But then you think maybe it's a slippery slope, or maybe you just wake up one day and some West is in your
But
head,
that's the
and
thing,
someone
bro.
tells
That's
you
why
something, or someone,
you can't be complacent. That's the thing. You cannot be
yeah, 100%.
complacent. You can't say, look, I'm praying my salah. I'm, decent. I've got my silat rahim. Like, do the absolute basics. I'm doing that, right? I'm not a sheikh mufti, right? I'm not a
Mm.
abid. I can't afford hajj, umrah, whatever, yeah? And you keep telling yourself that until that could happen to you. Why, though? Because you were complacent when it came to A, upping your worship game, right? Adding a little adhkar here, a little istighfar, a little sunnah prayers here and there. And you neglected seeking knowledge and having reminders of the hadith or the seerah or the Quran, these things that are not just for scholars, these things are for everyone to be reminded of what's important and how to act and how to think and how to behave. If you neglect these two things and you just are happy with the minimum, well, because you're not leveling up, and so shaitan's chipping at you, right?
Yeah.
So he'll chip at you, and if you're not leveling up, you eventually can't defend yourself, right? So
Yeah. But
you
it could be
can't be
one thing, bro.
complacent, yeah.
It could be one vice or one whatever that comes out of nowhere and just absolutely decimates you. Could be. It could be. You know. But, and it's not. There's people that you could easily judge somebody and start saying, like, I don't know, let's say it's alcohol. I've got zero desire to drink alcohol. Never been tempted. It's not like it doesn't appeal to me. Just I despise it. So yeah, it's easy for me to say, oh, it's not going to be alcohol. Could easily be something else. It could be something that completely decimates me. Because everybody's different. Everybody's got a different temperament. Um, so just be mindful and always seek protection from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I like to renew my shahada like daily, bro. Daily, just because you don't know. Did I say something? Did I say something that took me out of it? I don't know. Could have done. Honestly, you just don't know. You need to be mindful. There's people, bro, making takfir online on Twitter like it's no tomorrow. Like they're being forced. I remember tweeting about it recently. I was like, there's kids online making takfir like there's someone got a gun to their head. Like who gave you that responsibility? Because we know that if that takfir is not legit and it wasn't accepted, it's not actually Allah knows the condition of a person, and if that person you've just made takfir on was actually still Muslim, that falls back on you.
Boomerang.
Or maybe you've joked about something that you shouldn't have. Maybe you've gone into extreme on something you shouldn't have. Or maybe your intentions when doing a particular part of ibadah was incorrect, or whatever it is. Like you just need to stay on your toes with this stuff. Stay on your toes when it comes to your deen and your iman.
Is staying on your toes a
And
boxing analogy?
maybe, yeah. Don't get too relaxed. Don't be too relaxed.
I like that.
Don't be too lax. But in addition, start worrying when like there's that uneasy feeling in your heart kind of disappears. There was a hadith I came across recently, and I can't recall it, but it was in relation to like could have been just a quote from one of the Sahaba or a scholar, but it was in relation to like that uneasy feeling that you feel when committing a sin is your savior essentially. Because the moment that disappears, that's it. You're finished. If you don't feel that
Yeah.
kind of discomfort, this
I think
unease,
they call it like, I think al-amn, like feeling safe from Allah's punishment.
and even with things that are dubious, things that you're not sure whether they're halal or haram, if you're feeling uneasy about it, get away from that.
Bro, this is why 40 Hadith Nawawi, sick summary. All these little things that you're bringing up, it's like, I'm just remembering, that hadith, wait, what's these hadith have in common? Oh, they're all in that book. Like, it really is the summary, mashallah. Allah yarham.
You see, though, how,
Nawawi.
how we're just, all we're doing, like, it's exactly what happened, bro, when I was, the conspiracy theory stuff is what led me sort of in a weird way to get practicing. because those people I was talking to were giving me this hopeless kind of view of the world. Like, oh, that's it. They were using arguments of like man-made religions or this and that, and they're part of the system. Everything's a matrix. You know, that's it. Well, like, what can you do? All you can do is go down the path of anarchy and whatever. And then realized, no, actually, on every level, Islam decimates this stuff. On every level, even the most basic things that we're talking about here, like a basic book of I'm not saying basic to in a derogatory way, but I'm saying the most accessible book, which is like 40 Hadith of Imam Nawawi, that every mosque has it. You know, just reading that is enough for you to defeat all sorts of various sinister, nefarious agendas that are out there, right? And you won't get that from anything else. You're not going to get that from Men's Fitness magazine. You're not going to get that from. No, honestly, you're not going to get that from. I don't know, flipping whatever influencers on YouTube. I'm not going to name any. You're not. You're going to get it from Islam.
I know what you're going to say. I was going to say the same thing, but then I thought not to.
You know what I'm trying to say, man.
Yeah.
Anyway, bit of a random episode.
Jazakallah khair. It's good, bro. It's all actually a few separate topics intertwined.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik, shadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. It's 11 p.m. past my bedtime.
It's almost Maghrib. Salam.
The front row is open to join now. It was open at the beginning. First set it up, got 10 brothers in. It's been going amazing, alhamdulillah, phenomenally. And now there are 10 slots open. 3 have just been taken. So there are now 7 slots available. So if you want to join, then click the link in the description.